Hi, I'm Sophie. Today my co-authors Julia, Miranda, and I will be presenting our paper, Taking Data Out of Context to Hyper-Personalize Ads, Crowdworkers' Privacy Perceptions and Decisions to Disclose Private Information. In the old days, advertisements were marketed to broad, heterogeneous audiences. For example, a billboard showing an ad about vacations to Hawaii would be seen by everyone passing by. The rise of web tracking, email tracking, and data marketplaces has enabled far greater personalization. Advertisers infer users' interests and demographics to create increasingly targeted and personalized ads. A logical next step would be hyper-personalized ads, like, Sophie, plant enthusiasts like you love Hawaii. Book your flight from Chicago today. Prior work has shown that some people can find personalized ads creepy. Personalization involves data collected in one context being reused in another, which is a potential misuse of data. This raises two questions. How would you respond to seeing your data recontextualized in a hyper-targeted ad? And how could you prevent unwanted reuse of your data in the future? Well, of course, one strategy for preventing unwanted reuse is to limit information disclosure by being more hesitant about giving information out in the first place. More specifically, our research questions were, would seeing a creepy hyper-personalized ad cause feelings of privacy invasion that would alter information disclosure behavior? To explore these questions, we designed an experiment. We used the prolific crowdsourcing platform to recruit participants. We showed them either a generic or hyper-personalized ad, then asked a series of invasive questions with the option not to answer. We hypothesized that, as a way to protect their privacy, those who saw the hyper-personalized ad would answer fewer invasive questions compared to those who saw the generic ad. Now we'll detail our methods.
For validity, participants couldn't know the ad was from us, so we designed a deception protocol. The protocol had two parts. In part one, we collected the information needed to personalize the ad. Then, we waited over a week so participants would forget what information we collected. And in part two, we showed the ad and asked the invasive questions. We compensated $1 for part one, which took 5 minutes, and $4 for part two, which took 30 minutes. As part of our deception, we initially gave a generic study title, The Demographics, Interests, and Experiences of Americans. And instead of using our university affiliation, we posed as the fictional Institute for Interests and Demographics Research, IIDR. The goal of part one was to obtain consent and gather the information needed for the ad without arousing suspicion. To do this, we elicited information about our participants amidst distractor questions. We asked for participants' name, phone number, preferred cuisine, relationship status, and partner's name. We also used IP geolocation to estimate their town-level location. Having gotten information for hyper-personalizing an ad, we waited a week so participants would have time to forget about the information they gave. We were then ready to show the participants the ad in part two. When participants began part two, our software automatically triggered either the display of a banner ad on the first page of the survey or the delivery of a robotext to the participant's cell phone. Robotexts are increasingly being used for personalized ads. Further, as they would likely be received on a different device than the survey, participants would be less likely to associate the ad with our survey. So with the information collected from part one, we were able to create personalized ads, like this banner ad. Taylor, treat Ryan to a date night this week in Memphis. We know you love Thai restaurants. Use supereats.co to reserve a table near you for a deal. So on the left is the personalized ad you just saw. And as a control, we created parallel generic ads with no personalization that read, treat yourself this week. Use supereats.co to reserve a restaurant near you. Robotext ads were also personalized or generic, with similar text to the banner ads. They were sent from a short code commonly used for commercial purposes. So to recap our study conditions, participants received either a banner ad or a robotext ad, and the ad was either personalized or generic. Next, we asked a series of invasive questions. We created questions taking inspiration from sources like the American Housing Survey, US Census, and Pew Research. We also gathered more sensitive questions from Facebook and Cosmo magazine quizzes. From these, we selected 43 invasive questions reflecting a range of sensitivity. Earlier questions were low invasiveness, like how many years of experience do you have with using the internet? The questions escalated to include things like, for what reason did you last cry? What is the first and last name of your best friend? What is your home address? Crucially, each question had a conspicuous prefer not to say option. We called attention to this option at the start of the section and explicitly told participants they would not be penalized for selecting it. We hypothesized participants would select prefer not to say to protect their privacy and limit information disclosure. Afterwards, we debriefed participants about the study's true nature. We revealed that we were not the fake IIDR, but the University of Chicago, and that we had sent the ad. Following the debrief, we also asked participants about their reactions and recollections of the ad. Do you remember seeing the ad? Did you suspect it was study-related at any point? And what factors did you consider when answering the invasive questions? Because participants could have protected their privacy by answering questions inaccurately, we showed them a list of their answers and asked them to select any inaccurate ones. We emphasized they would not be penalized for having given inaccurate responses. We took great care to protect participant privacy and follow ethical best practices. We used Prolific's deception filter to only recruit participants who had already consented to participate in deception studies. Prolific approved our study design for collecting personal identifying information. We made sure we debriefed participants who dropped out of the study early. And finally, we deleted participant PII and immediately overwrote their answers to the invasive questions, retaining only whether they had answered each and done so accurately.
We recruited 280 participants from Prolific to participate in our study. We wanted to verify that participants did not associate the ad with the study contents. Following the debrief, participants self-reported whether they saw the ad and suspected it was study-related. 92 participants, or 65%, were sent the robotext ad, saw it, and did not think it was study-related. 85 participants, or 62%, were shown the banner ad, saw it, and similarly were not suspicious. The remainder of the results report only on these participants. We were interested in whether participants would be creeped out or otherwise react negatively to hyper-personalization. Participants frequently reported feeling scared, surprised, or having other strong negative feelings. 53% of participants who saw a personalized banner ad reported such feelings, as did 44% of those who saw a personalized robotext ad. In contrast, 0% of participants who saw a generic ad reported similar negative feelings. Participants perceived our ads as creepy. For example, participant 211 wrote, "I was quite alarmed by the ad, wondering how it knew my spouse's name and location. I was disturbed and put off by it." Another participant who had received a robotext responded to our text message directly, saying they would blast us on Twitter for sending such creepy ads. Participants' reactions often tried to make sense of where the information came from. Some participants wrote about Google or Facebook, two highly visible data collectors. Participant 123 thought more specifically and wrote, "I had a noticeable reaction of both worry and disgust, and then I realized I had been visiting a lot of restaurant websites recently." For each invasive question, we measured whether participants answered it instead of selecting prefer not to say, shown in the gray circle, and whether participants reported answering it accurately, shown in the white circle. All participants answered less sensitive questions, like around internet usage. Many fewer participants answered the more sensitive questions. While 86% answered, "For what reason did you last cry?" less than half answered, "What is the first and last name of your closest friend?" and only 15% answered, "What is your home address?" The average participant, though, answered 86% of all questions, which was much higher than we expected. We were most interested in whether information disclosure would differ by condition. These box plots will show the total questions answered and total questions answered accurately for participants in each condition. Participants who received either generic or personalized robotext ads, or generic or personalized banner ads. Despite participants' negative reactions to personalized ads, Mann-Whitney U tests revealed no significant differences in the number of questions answered by participants based on whether they saw a personalized or generic ad. We asked participants how they chose between disclosing information or selecting prefer not to say. 42% of participants chose not to disclose information perceived to be personal or embarrassing, such as when it crossed the line into their privacy. Other participants did not disclose information that was personally identifying or important for security. For example, questions that felt like phishing, like mom's maiden name, were a no-go. I cared less about it being invasive and more about it being bad security. In contrast, why did participants decide to disclose information? First, it was influenced by time pressures. To be honest, you are bombarded with information all the time, and for the most part, it's too much effort to try and keep up with everything. They also desired study compensation. I think there is a lot of risk, and if I wasn't flat broke, I wouldn't be doing this, which highlights a known labor pressure on crowd workers. A final consideration was weighing the costs and benefits of disclosure, also known as privacy calculus. It's impossible to really know where the data goes after you leave it. This is very unrestricted territory, but the fact I get compensated makes me feel justified in taking any risks. This participant acknowledged the costs of not knowing where the data would go, but reasoned that because they got compensated, it would be worth it. Prior work has shown crowd workers' trust in a requester and their reputation impacts whether they disclose information. To investigate whether this influenced our participants, we asked them how trustworthy they perceived our fake organization, IIDR, to be. Participants reported very mixed trust, but we found that participants had a lot of trust in Prolific. 83% mentioned trusting the study because it was on Prolific. Many described assumptions that Prolific vets its studies. I feel like Prolific weeds out all the bad studies, so I had faith that Prolific would keep me safe. Prolific does not actually proactively screen studies on its platform. I'd like to conclude with some thoughts for discussion. The results of our study are interesting to consider in light of the contextual integrity theory of privacy. Contextual integrity posits that privacy comes from appropriate flows of information, and privacy harms arise when information is unexpectedly used or reused. Our findings seem to support this theory, as participants had strong negative reactions to their information being repurposed for commercial ads. However, contrary to our hypothesis, we did not observe participants change their information disclosure behavior as a result of potential privacy harm. Perhaps participants compartmentalized the effects of various flows of information. That is, they still decided to disclose sensitive information when they didn't know from whom to protect their information. This poses an issue. Who uses online data and how is not very transparent. Our study also has implications for crowd work. Our crowd workers placed a lot of trust in Prolific to help them manage privacy risks. But crowdworking platforms largely assume that the workers themselves will decide what they're willing to disclose. The burden should not be placed on crowd workers. Instead, we need privacy by design. Crowdworking platforms could introduce verification systems for requester identities, and they could collaborate with IRBs to ensure requesters are behaving as they should. Further, crowdworking platforms could require requesters to disclose the purpose of data collection to give workers more transparency into how their data will be used. What directions are there for future work? First, future work could investigate what it takes to creep people out enough that they change their behavior. A single ad wasn't enough in our study, but multiple over a longer period of time might be. Or maybe no amount of creepiness is enough to cause behavior change, which raises interesting questions for assumptions of user self-regulation. Future work could also investigate competing effects in information disclosure. Some participants could have taken a cautionary lesson from our study and decided not to share information again. Others could have been demoralized, had their privacy hopelessness confirmed, and decided there's no benefit in trying to protect their privacy online at all. Finally, future work could investigate non-crowdworking contexts to understand how others perceive risks to disclosing information online. Thank you so much for listening to our talk.